Hello guys and welcome back to the With a Minute to Go podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video if you do enjoy it, and smash that notification bell so you do not miss a thing. Again, you can find us on Spotify by typing in With a Minute to Go or by clicking the link via our social medias on Instagram and Twitter at WAMTGpod. So with the Euros squads to be announced this month, now is a good time for us to sit down and discuss who will make the England squad. As ever, we're joined by Matt. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
And Lewis, who we had on last week. We're looking to make him a bit more of a regular fixture. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Glad to be back on so quickly.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, we won't waste any more time then, we'll get straight into it. The format for today will go as follows. So we'll start by discussing our England squads, going from goalkeepers right the way through to the attackers and seeing how similar or different the squads are. One thing to remember is these squads are no longer 23-man, they're actually now 26-man due to the sort of possible mini COVID outbreaks that could happen within the squads during the tournament. And that will take up the bulk of the episode, but we'll obviously throw in the Scout and Matt versus to finish off the episode. So let's get right into it then with the goalkeepers. Matt, I'll let you go first with your three.
I think for myself, an obvious three. Those that have sort of made up the bulk of the squads. Jordan Pickford, Nick Pope from Burnley, and Dean Henderson, who obviously in recent sort of weeks and last months or so has become a sort of a regular fixture in Man United's number one. So for me, they were no-brainers. I see Pickford being the first choice, and the other two providing backup. But yeah, I think it was quite probably the easiest selections.
Yes, definitely. Luke?
Yeah, boring, but I've gone exactly the same. Pickford, Pope and Henderson. I don't know if Pickford would be my number one, but I think he's going to be Southgate's number one. He has been for years and has been since the last World Cup, so I think that's the way he's going to go. So that is the three I've gone with.
Yeah, I've gone slightly different. I'm sort of. I think you guys are both basing it off maybe tournament experience. Obviously, Pickford was number one for the World Cup in 2018, so Southgate might trust him a little bit more. But I've gone with Nick Pope as the number one. I think on merit, the last 3 years he's been probably one of the best keepers in the Premier League, certainly the best English. Dean Henderson second choice, and someone who we've talked about a lot of times, Matt, who's really impressed me this year for obviously a struggling West Brom, is Sam Johnston. If we're looking at current form, why have you both gone with Pickford?
I think he gets a raw deal a little bit, Pickford. Obviously, I think it's quite obvious and well known that the reason why he was England's number one wasn't necessarily how he was playing, but was because of what he can do in terms of being comfortable with the ball at his feet, his distribution, especially when you compare him maybe to a Nick Pope. You look at, again, just speaking about Nick Pope, you look at the style of football that Burnley play compared to maybe an Everton where it's a little bit more similar to what England are doing and what he's being asked to do. I'm not saying Nick Pope cannot do it, but we rarely see him in those situations. I think Pickford has had a raw deal a little bit. I think I watched him last week and he was outstanding. He made two really impressive saves. I think you've got to remember, the quality that he has and does possess, and things he's done in the past. I appreciate maybe current form. He's had a couple of moments in Ricks. I think he's. A lot of people obviously lay blame at his door with the Van Dijk injury, which is rightly so, and I think that probably plays on a lot of people's minds because that was obviously quite controversial at the time. I think he's still a superb goalkeeper. Go back to the World Cup in 2018, Colombia, the penalty shootout.
So does that directly feed into your thinking?
A little bit it does. Yeah, I think so, and I think you've got to have some sort of loyalty. And I think Gareth Southgate is quite loyal to his players. I like all three goals. I think there's some good competition. I don't think there is a standout world-class goalkeeper, and I think England have probably struggled for quite a while with that. I think the last one you'd say was world-class was probably David Seaman. That was a long time ago. So I don't think England have probably had a world-class goalkeeper for a long time. I think Pickford will suit this Southgate style of football.
Yep.
We're not talking about a poor goalkeeper here. He's still a very good goalkeeper, playing in a good Premier League side. So yeah, that for me is why Pickford should be will go, and I agree with Lou, will be the number one.
Yeah,
I think with Henderson, he has the potential to be a world-class goalkeeper. If he's going to be Man United's number one for a long time, he's going to be world-class. Man United wouldn't put up with anything less than that. De Gea was world-class for a number of years, probably isn't anymore, but that's why Henderson's now got his chance. Just on Pickford, yeah, the tournament experience, going to a tournament with 3 goalkeepers who've not played a minute of tournament football probably isn't the right way to go.
Yep.
Pickford, often players used to get criticised, you know, but especially during the golden generation, the early 2000s, but they weren't as good for England as they were for their club. I think Pickford's the other way. I think he's better for England than he has been for Everton, and he hasn't let England down as much as he has sometimes Everton. So that's why I think he deserves to keep his place. He hasn't let Southgate down, and he can do it on the big occasion, I think.
Yeah.
So that's why I'll go with him.
Just quickly, guys, as you can probably hear, the rain is absolutely hammering down. We're recording our usual place outside. We've gone with no camera this week due to the weather, so hopefully it doesn't affect the podcast too much. But yeah, to be honest, I can see Pickford being number one, even though I'm probably against that. And on merit, I think Nick Pope has probably done enough to.
I agree with
get
you
in there.
on Sam Johnston that he probably is the 4th one. If Cal the Dragon's not ready to play for England yet, Sam Johnston is probably 4th in line, but you can only take 3, and I think they'll be the 3.
I think the question on Henderson as well was that he hadn't played enough football this season. Obviously, he had his season a couple of seasons at Sheffield United, but you know he's now Man United's number one. You know, he plays in the Premier League games. He's playing week in, week out. That would have been for me the one, whether you either go with Henderson or whether you take Sam Johnson, who's playing week out. But the fact Henderson's playing now week in, week out, that just strengthens it for me. Lou's right. I think long term he probably is going to be the one who's going to be not only Man United's number one, but probably England's number one longer term, because he does possess, you know, the ability with the ball at his feet, similar to Pickford, which maybe Pope doesn't. And the fact he's playing, I think he's the youngest as well, so he's the one that's probably going to be pushing on and be England number one. I'd imagine maybe another 2 years down the line.
If he's Man United's number one, he's undoubtedly England's number one in the future, because Gary Neville said it last month. It's the most scrutinised role in football, Man United goalkeeper, because he obviously he views them as the biggest club in the world. They are one of, and you have to be top quality. So Henderson in the future, but I think he's 3rd choice going to some.
Yep, no, fair enough. I mean, you know, he's come into the team for Day, who had a few weeks out, and actually been very impressive. And to be honest, it's only the fact that De Gea has been so good is the fact that he hasn't had, you know, too many opportunities in that United team this year. So we'll go with those 3 goalkeepers then. Jordan Pickford as first choice, Pope then Henderson as the 3rd choice. Move on to defenders. I'll tell you what, Lewis, I'll let you reel yours off.
Okay, well we'll start off. We've got a couple of right backs in Alexander-Arnold and Kyle Walker. 4 centre backs I've gone with are Maguire and Stones, and then Mings and Cody, and then the 2 left backs I've got is Luke Shaw and Ben Chilwell.
Yep, Matt, you've gone fairly similar.
Exactly the same.
Exactly
I
the same.
think. Yes.
Okay.
You know, I think there's some obvious picks there. I think looking at Stones and Maguire, you know, particularly impressed with how John Stones has been. I think Luke Shaw's form this year, the upturn in form, has got him in the squad and ahead of others.
Yep.
Interesting one. That what I was thinking, Cody. Obviously, he has played for England in recent games. Probably, if England are going to play a back 4, doesn't get in ahead of Maguire. And John Stones. Probably there we're looking at as being the starts twos. But yeah, look, I think Cody could be that one that could play in that back 3 if needed.
I think just quickly on Luke Shaw, he's one of those lucky ones that maybe if the tournament was held last year, he wouldn't have got in. Obviously, this year's had a fantastic season and maybe got a kick up the
John
proverbials.
Stones is another one, really.
Yeah.
You know, that maybe wouldn't have
Never
got
been
in
anywhere near it last
No.
summer.
Got to agree with that. Now, the only difference between our defensive players is the right back position. Now, you've both gone with Trent this year. He's been pretty poor in my eyes, an underachieving sort of Liverpool side. I've gone with Reece James, who's had a superb year with Chelsea, obviously in the FA Cup final, getting top 4 in a Champions League final as well. How is it that you've overlooked him?
Well, he's not playing that much for Chelsea. Azpilicueta's playing right wing back at the minute, which he's never played before really in his life. He's normally the right centre back if he's playing the back 3. So Tuchel's obviously not fancying him that much. James is good. I like James. It's difficult because England will start the tournament with a back 4 if everyone's fit, and I think the back 4 the two at the back will be Stones and Maguire, and then short left back, and then one of the right backs.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to go back to Gary Neville again, but he said a couple of months ago that Maguire, controversially, is England's most important player, more than Harry Kane.
Yeah.
And he said that is because if Maguire gets injured, he thinks the formation straight away has to change because of the centre backs.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think Kyle Walker can play right centre back in a back three, and Southgate will play that
Yeah.
if it gets to that point.
Okay.
So that's why he has to go as the right back. Whether he starts as the right back in a four, I don't know. But Trent, yeah, he's not had a great season, but he's one of the best there is in the world, and his delivery can get you a goal or something out of nothing. It's unfortunate for James. I think you could potentially, in a back three, as obviously as the wing back, might be a better option than Trent. But
definitely, I mean, you know, James has had 2 very good seasons now for Chelsea. Obviously, breaking in under Lampard with that, you know, year where he couldn't really spend too much money. Trent is another one that last year would have gone undoubtedly. This year he hasn't had a great one. So that back four with Walker, Maguire, Stones, and Shaw. Is there a case for Mings as a left footer?
I think it's always important you have a left footer. Just going back to the right back situation, I think Lewis is spot on. I think Kyle Walker will. I think he's England's best right back at the minute. I think he's had a little bit of a renaissance coming back in, playing for Man City. He wasn't always playing for Man City. I thought he was outstanding against Neymar the other night. You know, no one's going to outpace him. You know,
that's it. Yeah.
That's the thing.
100%.
But he is also, you know, he's played right side of a three before. I think if you're looking at who's going to be a wing back, you're not going to get better than Alexander-Arnold. I think the question marks on him are always defensively. If he's playing him as a wing back, then he has less of a defensive role. You know, and he really can be that one to get down the side and deliver the ball. You look at Liverpool last season, more so than this year, the amount of crosses they put in the box, Alexander-Arnold and Robertson, the goals they score from those players getting forward and delivery. So I think if in a back four he won't play, he wouldn't play Alexander-Arnold, but if you're then switching to a back three, he is the right wing back that you want to have.
And I'd just go back on it quickly. I don't think this is the defence that Southgate will go with. This is what I think he should go with, but I think he'll go with Trippier as one of his right backs. I think he might even go Trippier plus 2 other right backs because of what I said about Walker, and perhaps not take Cody because as I said, if Walker can be used, if he needs to go to a back three, Walker can be used as the right centre back, and you've got Stones and you've got Mings, etc. That's why I think you might go Trippier. He likes Trippier, and he likes him as right wing back. I don't like Trippier too much, to be honest. Not a massive fan, but he's got that experience and he scored in the semi-final, so he might get the nod.
Well, I think it's certainly an option for Southgate. I mean, he's obviously favoured him at previous tournaments, 2018. We're going back, and that's why we've sort of said Pickford will probably be the first choice as well for the goalkeeper.
I think going back to Mings, what you asked me before, I think it is important that there is some sort of balance and having the left-footed centre back. And to be fair, the only other one I can think of that maybe would be Michael Keane at Everton. To be honest, I'm denied whether he would come into it, but I think the fact Mings is a left-footed centre half. Sometimes when you do play a three, and if that happens, sometimes it can be better to have on that left side of the three a left-footed player, just to help get out. But it is just about the balancing act. I think what we've all agreed on is two full-backs and 4 centre halves. I think that makes up a lot of cover there in positions. Obviously, the extra space is 26. I think 8 defenders is probably good. We'll talk about the midfield. There probably is maybe one midfielder that we've got in the squad that might be able to drop in at worst case scenario. But I think you're well covered across the board. In different positions. The Trippier one would be someone who could cover right back. He could probably also play left back at a push as well. Obviously, we talked about Walker being able to play right back and right side centre half. So I think when you're talking about squads and building squads, you've got to have those players who are more of a utility, or not more of a utility player, but have got a range of positions. But I think when you've got 26 now, I think you can afford to nearly have 2 in each position.
And another thing I would say, Southgate's got, not lucky, but we said about John Stones that he wouldn't have made it last year's tournament. But to be honest, there isn't really anyone else. It's a bit harsh. Like James Tarkowski had his chance, and he doesn't, he doesn't look like he's in favour in a minute. Lewis Dunk doesn't look like he's favour, and he's not going to be called up. I don't think Ben White will go this time. No. I don't think Southgate wants to get to a situation at all this summer where his back three is Walker, Cody, and Mings. I think that's not a great scenario at all. He's desperate for Maguire to stay fit and nearly as much John Stones to stay fit, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I think
England haven't
the
got world-class
The next
centre-backs.
week is going to be interesting because we talked just before we started recording about Man United and their amount of games, and they were talking this morning about who would play in majority of those fixtures, and Harry Maguire is probably the only one that's probably going to end up playing 3 or if not 4 games
Yeah,
in a week,
definitely.
because they don't really have a lot of other cover,
No.
and they need to
But
win
he can
games.
do it. He does it. He plays every
No,
single
but that
match.
is that a case where he's more likely now to be susceptible to picking up an injury? It
Definitely.
is the
Yeah.
strangest season
Possibly.
ever with the sheer amount of games.
He's the one player you never think. He never seems to get injured.
No, with
Since
touch,
he's been
touch wood
United.
for England he won't. But I think we take Stones out of it, and a year ago he wouldn't be in it.
No.
I don't think I would be necessarily comfortable with Mings and Maguire as a pair,
No.
or Mings and Cody.
No,
Although
certainly
Cody's
not,
more suited to a 5, Wolves obviously played a 4 a lot this season. Then you were probably looking at bringing Michael Keane in, or a Tarkowski, or something like that, or a Lewis Dunk. But none of them are really at the level of John Stones or what
No,
John Stones
no.
produced this year. So I think it's so key that them two do stay fit for the rest of the season. To be solid.
Maguire
There.
is better on the left side of a back two as well.
He's interesting
He's
also
used to
though,
playing that role.
what we've said about Kyle Walker, because for me he's very underrated. The fact that he's defensively and both attackingly as well. For me, he's been world class the last 5 years. And we look at Trent and Reece James and maybe those slightly more attacking players that don't have it defensively. I mean, it says a lot about him, the fact that you could probably put him in a back 5 and be happy with that. So yeah, a lot of options for me for Southgate, and to be honest, I think probably starting with that back 4: Walker, Maguire, Stones, Shaw. There are players that can come in. Obviously, Maguire is a big one. If he picks up an injury, which, like you said, Matt, is possible with the sheer amount of games that have been happening.
Well, I think if that's a back 4 that I know we're doing a squad today, but if we were saying what is our strongest back 4, and we're saying it's Walker, Stones, Maguire, Shaw, 3 of them possibly wouldn't have started the Euros this time last year. Shaw definitely wouldn't, Stones definitely wouldn't,
Yeah.
and there's arguments that Alexander-Arnold would have been ahead of Walker.
Yeah.
So that just shows what a difference this year has done for players.
And Chilwell could have been in there as well, left back, first choice maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah, he would have been.
Yeah, a lot of options then. Right, we'll move on then to the midfielders. Well, I think this is probably the most densely populated area of the pitch for England. I'll read out who I've gone with in midfield. Again, I think there's only one difference between us. So Foden, Mount, Henderson, obviously depending on injury, Declan Rice, Maddison, Grealish, Calvin Phillips, which is maybe slightly controversial, we'll come on to him, and Jesse Lingard. Now, the only difference between us is the fact that I've gone with Maddison, because for me, for Leicester, he's been absolutely superb this year. Obviously, he's had a couple of spells on the sideline, but all round his playmaking qualities and his ability to score a goal. I think England do need that from time to time. And you've both gone with Bellingham instead. Is that maybe to give another option as a more central, like box-to-box midfielder?
You can't have too many number 10s
Yeah.
because, first of all, Southgate's not a massive fan of having number 10s. I think you'll have like one. Obviously, you can only have one really, but he's not like Tuchel where he has these 2 attacking midfielders.
No.
Bellingham, he needs to go because in 2 years' time, whenever the next World Cup is that next year? I don't know how all the timings are going with these things in a minute.
Yeah.
Anyway, the next tournaments, he will be a starter every single game. I think his quality is 17. He's doing it for Dortmund,
Yeah.
every week in a league like that.
No
I think
doubt.
he has to go.
Yeah.
He can play a bit deeper than Maddison. I think that's why I would go
Yeah.
with him ahead of Maddison.
I mean, technically, they're both fantastic footballers. Obviously, he's what? Is he 18 now?
Yeah,
I think
17,
Bellingham.
17, 18. Yeah,
What I've
yeah.
seen for Dortmund this year against Man City a couple of times mainly, he's been absolutely superb. Matt, you've also gone with Bellingham.
Yeah, he was outstanding in those 2 games, and we're unfortunate we don't get to watch as much of the Bundesliga, and but I think again I'll go back to 26. You can afford to have bring someone for we're not bringing for experience, but he's a young kid,
Yeah.
But it's not a risk either because if you had to put him in, he's got quality. I think as well the way Southgate plays, you might disagree. I think it's almost it's a sort of a 4-3-3, but it's made up of one holding midfielder. Well, I think this is the way it will go. It depending on opposition, will be one holder with sort of 2 number 8s and not a number
Yep.
10. Now, I know sometimes he's quite cautious and he might look to play 2 sitters and 1 in front. But I think when you look at the attacking talent, the likes of Foden, Mount, Grealish, I think you end up with 1 sitting player, which we could argue maybe looking like probably Declan Rice, and having 2 in front. Now Bellingham could play in front, so could Mount, so could Foden, so could Grealish, Jesse Lingard. I think now we've got lots of options there. I think Maddison's probably lower down the order. You know, I think if he's not gonna, I think if Bellingham went to the tournament and didn't play, fair enough. I think if Maddison goes to the tournament and doesn't play, we're asking a little bit of questions here, because he's more of a senior player. So I think Bellingham for me gets in not only because of quality, also because it's an experience thing. Lewis is right. In 2 years' time, or in a year's time, or at the next European Championships, he will be a regular fixture for England. There's no question about that.
Yeah, Matt, you've also left out Calvin Phillips. Obviously we've got Henderson and Rice in that position. If obviously Henderson does drop out due to injury, would you have him in?
Yeah, I think he's the next one. I think Jordan Henderson's massive for England. Now, the real dilemma for me would be if Henderson is fit and then England decide that they're only going to play 1 sort of city midfielder. Is it going to be Rice? Is it going to be Henderson? Now, Henderson's been out for a lot of the season. Declan Rice is currently out at the minute, but it looks like he will be fit for the Euros, and has had an outstanding season at West Ham. For me, it's a 50-50 call. I think Henderson's probably underrated. Wasn't until Liverpool won the league that people really see the quality that he brings. I think if they were both fit, I believe Southgate will play them both, which for me it doesn't work. I think we've got to have some attacking. We've got to unleash the
too negative, isn't it?
I think it's conservative. I think we've got to unleash the attacking talent that we've got. We've got to go and try and win games of football, especially in the group stages. Really go after teams, rather than being a little bit cautious and playing with them too. But yeah, if Henderson isn't going to go, then Calvin Phillips is certainly the next one. He's played a lot for England recently, done well with Leeds. But for me, if Henderson's fit, Henderson goes.
I still think that you said how it could be negative playing 2 of them in midfield, Henderson and Rice. I think you will go Henderson Rice. You're right. Even if it's setting up position, you shouldn't be. But you also then, as we spoke about earlier with the defence, if the formation needs changing, you then need to think about that and you need to cover all bases, because if you go to a 3 at the back and you have 2 centre midfielders, so let's say it's the 3-4-3 or however he does it, the 2 midfielders really need to be Rice and Henderson, and or Phillips as one of them.
As one,
So it's Rice and Henderson, and then Phillips is your backup for that position.
But I think if you're going to play a 3-4-3, I think you can afford to have 1 sitting and 1 in that number 8, which I think at the minute probably more in that sort of formation, probably more suited someone like Mason Mount.
I don't know. I don't know if Mount would play in. I don't know how he would get in that team or in the 3-4-3.
I think he could occupy number 8. I think he's done for Chelsea.
If we're starting the first game, for me the ideal midfield would be Declan Rice with Mount and Foden in front. I think he gives them licence to go. Equally, it could be Henderson with them 2. I think the fact that that would anchor the midfield, it's going to really allow the front 5 to go and express themselves. I think we can keep going on about Foden, fantastic, world class. Mason Mount, we watched him last night. He was brilliant against an average. Let's be honest, lots of names around Madrid, but they were poor. We've got all these players. We've got to fit them in the team. I think that's what we've got to get them in the team. Otherwise, we're going to go to another We're going to go to another major competition, and we're going to have some great players that are not going to be on the pitch, because we're just going to make sure we don't lose games. I think we've got to go out and try and win games. We've got the attacking talent to certainly do it.
I listed Foden as a midfielder, right? But I'm thinking about it more now. I can't see him playing as one of the 3 midfielders in the team. You look at Man City. You look at England's team. In last summer, you would have gone Sterling as your starter, right? He's going to start on the left-hand side. Foden plays ahead of him now for Man City, and I think Foden should be playing ahead of him for England, and he can play that role. He's much quicker than people think. Give him credit for. He's the pace. So I think
the only thing I'd say,
Henderson, Rice, and then Mount is for me.
He is, when he's central, he's so good at the jinking runs. I think.
Last night.
When he's.
2 nights ago.
I think when he's wide, he could be out of the game for 20 minutes. I think he's someone we've got to get on the ball. But also, you're right. If you're looking now, who would be your front three or your two wide players. A year ago, Sterling is a shoe-in.
Yep.
Is he still a shoe-in under Southgate? Possibly, because we know the way that Southgate picks his teams.
Yep.
You know, Jadon Sancho isn't. You know, we will come on to it, but he has not been
So many.
No one's
many
thought about
options,
him for a while.
I know.
He was a regular for England. You know, we've got other ones. We've got Rashford. Still got those sort of players that can do it.
Yeah.
I personally believe Foden's best position is centrally. But again, he could, if we're looking to get as many in the team as we can, maybe he is going to play.
Just quickly, obviously, we've said Foden a lot, but also someone we haven't mentioned is Jack Grealish. Now he's been injured recently. Hopefully, he'll be able to get back in time for the Euros. Is that another sort of player you could see operating wide? Because I think it's, you know, obviously we haven't seen him the last couple of months, but let's not forget how good he is.
100%. He had a fantastic first half of the season. Him, or even Lingard, coming from wide. I think, you know, it just gives another two options. And that's what I keep saying. It's the amount of quality that is not going to make the team. We need to make sure we're getting in as many as we can.
Yep.
It might be that we see some that don't actually go, but I think that's what we've.
Yep.
You know, we've got that quality. I think they say Grealish. Hopefully he's fit.
Yep.
But that might not be the case.
I think he's one of the lucky ones of the extension to 26.
Grealish.
Yeah, he wouldn't been if it was only 23. He wouldn't be in it because. Yeah, I think so.
That's
and
interesting.
the fact that he hasn't played for 2 months now.
Yeah.
He hasn't not many games left to prove his fitness.
No,
I think if he plays last couple for Villa, Southgate may take a chance. But
For me, the 26th man would be, although he's been so good, is Lingard. Just because he's only done it for a few months. Grealish has done it for 2 years in the Premier League now. Again, we haven't looked primarily here on form.
What about the World Cup 2018? Lingard was superb.
Yeah. That's another one that obviously Southgate will be looking.
Lingard has to go, but he won't start. He could be an impact player, and if people get injured as well.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so if I had to ask you, well, obviously the golden question, as to those midfielders, firstly, what formation would you definitely decide on, and secondly, who would be the personnel that fill those roles? Matt.
I think it's going to be a 1 and a 2 or a 2 and a 1.
Yep.
You know, I think Lewis is right when he says maybe it's more likely to be a 2 and a 1. For me, I'd like to see it the other way around. See one sitter and two in front. You know, Mount and Foden are probably the two main ones to see it, and then it's a toss up depending on whether Henderson's fit. I think that if Henderson is fit, he might get the nod again because he's Southgate's go-to player. If not, then Declan Rice is obviously a shoe-in. You know, as long as he is fit, because obviously at the minute he's not.
I mean, there's so many options, and there's still a few games left that it's almost like every time you watch the Premier League and see someone like a Mount or a Foden, or if Grealish comes back and puts in a good few performances, it's almost like, oh, he's got to play, or he's got to play. And actually, there's only 11 players. It's probably only 4 or 5 slots for those positions. Lewis, would you agree with what Matt said there?
I think it'd be a 2 and a 1, meaning if Rice and Henderson are fit, Rice and Henderson will play.
Yep.
Henderson is probably the vice captain. I don't really know, and Rice has to play, and there'll be Mount in front of them. You know, that's how we'll play it, and that's if the formation, as I said, doesn't get affected by someone getting injured at the back.
I mean, let's not underestimate those sort of leadership qualities that someone like a Henderson can bring. Obviously, captain of Liverpool. Maguire in there as well. Obviously, Kane. I'm not sure if he's still captain. Is he still captain?
He is,
yeah, exactly. So you've got 3 sort of leaders on the pitch. All in different areas, so that could sway Southgate's decision as well. But obviously, you know, so many options. I think a lot of quality in the middle of the pitch, and it'll be interesting to see who does go with for that first game, and if that changes over the course of the tournament. Now we'll move on then to the attackers, and I think this is probably the most controversial part because again, there's so many players that could really fit that bill for England. So Matt, who have you gone with for your sort of attacking players? I know you've sort of put strikers as well.
Yeah, so I've gone with 4. You'd say sort of number 9 central strikers, and then my wide players. My central strikers are obviously Harry Kane, Calvert-Lewin, Ollie Watkins, and Danny Ings. They're probably my ones I'd say will be playing through the middle in a 4-3-3, and then wide players I've got Raheem Sterling, Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford, and Bukayo Saka.
Yep. No, fair enough, Lee.
Obviously, as I mentioned a minute ago, I'd probably have Foden in that forwards now, but at the minute, for what I've got listed, I've got Kane, Calvert-Lewin as the 2 main number 9s really, and that's it. The number 9s, because
Right.
Kane will play every single minute of every single game if he's fit. Now, if he's injured before the tournament, you have to bring someone else in, etc. But Kane, Calvert-Lewin, they won't really start games together ever. That will never happen. So Calvert-Lewin will always be the backup and always can come on if needed. And then I've got Rashford, Sterling, Sancho, Saka, and then I've got Mason Greenwood. Now, I think I might be the only one with Mason Greenwood here.
Yes, you are. Just talk me through that. It's
He
interesting.
could score a goal out of nothing.
Yeah.
His finishing is better than anyone else apart from Kane in that squad. Far better than Rashford's. Far better than Sterling's. And a lot
disagree.
better than Calvert-Lewin. The only one, as I said, is Kane, who's got close to him finishing wise. And if you need to bring him on for 5 or 10 minutes, and he goes, put someone through on goal, I'd have Greenwood over most of them players,
No,
basically.
that's fair enough. And the other one that I haven't gone with is Matt. You've gone with Danny Ings. Now, it's someone who's, I think, in front of goal. His record speaks for itself. Really, 22 goals last year, only 10 goals this year, and he struggled with injury. But maybe slightly controversial from you there.
I think when I was looking at the strikers, it's what do the strikers bring individually. I think we know what Harry Kane will bring. We've seen him this year operating for Spurs a little bit deeper. Whether that's the case for England, we'll see. I think Calvert-Lewin, big physical, going to be aggressive in the air, gives you something different. Ollie Watkins, who I think definitely deserves to be around the reckoning. Stepped up from the Championship, scored goals this year. Express pace, will run in behind, gives you something different. I think Ings is the same. For me, he just gives you something a little bit different. He is a predator. He'll get in front of goal. He will score. Okay, he might have only scored 10 goals this year, but in a poor Southampton team where he has injuries, over 30 goals in the last 2 years. He is very unlucky that obviously the tournament wasn't last summer.
He's another one, isn't he?
But I think, I really like Danny Ings. I think he was extremely unlucky at Liverpool with injuries, and I'd like to have seen him playing regularly for them at some point during his Liverpool career. But since he's gone to Southampton, he has scored goals. I think, again, having 26, you can't have enough forwards.
Yeah.
You cannot have enough forwards. That for me, you're chasing games. You're trying to stay in a tournament. You need to get attacking players on the pitch. People, I think if Lewis is right in what he said with Mason Greenwood, good finisher. I think Danny Ings is someone who you back to score a goal.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the other ones you maybe wouldn't, but they offer something different.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, if we're looking at that sort of attacking lineup, maybe 3 across the front. Obviously, we've said Foden, Grealish, Mount, Sancho as well could fit in there. Now we've gone in terms of strikers. Obviously, Calvert-Lewin's in there, Watkins in there, Kane's in there as well, Ings as well. So that's 4. Could you see him maybe going 2 up top because there is so much quality there?
I don't think so. I don't.
Neither do I.
I can't remember the last time he did that. The only way is, as Matt just said, Kane can drop deep now and play a different role, and his passing is unbelievable. Actually, you watch some of his passing and you think, my God, how can he play like that when he's meant to be a number 9? It's crazy. But no, I don't think Southgate will go that way unless final 10 minutes we need a goal, final 15 minutes, whatever, chuck someone on.
No, fair enough.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think he'll as I've said, I've only got Kane and Calvert-Lewin as my number 9s. I think he'll use Rashford as a number 9 if need be.
Yeah. Another interesting one for me is Saka. I think you'd probably take him as more of a backup though.
I think so. He's versatile as well, isn't he? We talked earlier about versatility. Maybe another one who, for us Arsenal fans watching week in, week out, we probably think, oh, he's a shoot and he must go. But actually, when you start looking at the talent, and especially the attacking talent that England have, you think, oh, maybe not. Now, for me, he's gone because he is versatile. He's played a number of positions. In any sort of crisis, he can play off the right, off the left. He can play centrally behind the striker. He can play left back. If needs be. Also, I think sometimes some of these players deserve the opportunity to go to a major championships now.
For sure. Yeah.
The fact we've got 26 now and we can cover all bases, and he probably falls a little bit into a similar boat to Bellingham in terms of experience. But he's been outstanding for Arsenal this year in a poor team, so he deserves to be around it. Whether he gets any minutes or get any minutes, that's hard to say at the minute. But for me, he's someone that I'd want to see in the squad.
Yeah. No. So look, if we're looking at those attacking players, obviously there's 26. Is there any of those players that might have fallen out of the squad had it been 23 man?
Yeah, Greenwood.
Yep.
Even though I've just said that he should be in it.
Yep.
And potentially Saka, only because it's difficult. He's good for his versatility. Getting a goal, I don't know. His finishing isn't up to the standard at the minute. But I think potentially Sancho. We mentioned him very briefly earlier, and he hasn't had as good a season for Dortmund. He had a bit of time out injured, and he wasn't in the squad last time because of that. So it makes you think he hasn't really done it in an England shirt yet, and I'm not sure, if Southgate is a massive fan of him, and people like Rashford and Sterling, and Foden, and they're all ahead of him.
Yeah, I mean, assuming Saka's going to be the backup, I think that's probably quite obvious to see. Would it be more of, from the bench, Southgate would sort of favour those sorts of players because of the fact that they're probably more likely to score a goal?
I think so. It's hard. It's hard, really. Saka can, if Chilwell and Shaw fall ill on the morning of a game, he'll play left back in about 4. Yeah. But if you want to play as a wing back, Shaw's alright at wing back, I guess, but Chilwell's not as used to doing it. But he can chuck Saka there as well. So that's why I think he'll stay in there. But you can play in the front three, Saka. We know how good he is.
Yep. Well, anything's possible with obviously COVID, so that Chilwell and Shaw could be a very real situation.
Yeah, they just shouldn't spend too much time with each other because you don't want them both falling at the same time.
Exactly, yeah. Don't share a room or whatever.
It's really difficult to know what he'll do. That front, we've got lots and lots of very talented attackers, but it's about getting them in the right formation and the right players in. Because we said about the midfield, and you don't want to be too defensive because you want to get the attackers in, but you can't be too attacking because defence isn't that great. So it's hard to know how he'll line up.
I think what we can all agree on is that there's no excuse for not having players for every situation, and whatever scenario plays, having the players now. Then it's up to Southgate whether he puts the right one on or starts the right players. But I think with a 26-man squad, there's no, if we're going to be big and physical, and we're going to put the ball in the box. You've got someone like Calvert-Lewin. If we want to go a more defensive way, we might play with 2 sitting midfielders. What we spoke about before. I think whatever situation occurs, I think we've got players that can deal with those situations and play in formations. Now it's up to him now whether he gets that right when it really matters.
So let's quickly, forgetting about the opponent, first game of the group, who would be those sort of, if we're saying a front three, who would you go with?
I've got 2 absolute certainties, and that is Foden and Kane.
Yep.
Because I don't think Foden will play as a 10.
No, that's fair. I mean, he's done it.
Because Mount will play.
Yep.
And the other one's Rashford, but I can't see really Rashford coming off the right as much. But them 3, if you can get them in somehow, that's the front 3. Foden, Rashford and Kane.
I mean, there's so many counter arguments to that, because I could say, well, why not Sterling? Or if Saka finishes well, why not Saka?
For me, Sterling is a shoo-in and will start.
Okay.
For me.
Yep. Who
Kane will obviously be central one. I think it's very much a toss-up for the other position.
Foden has to play. But and you
for
you
me,
think he'll play 10, but Mount will play. I can't see Mount and Foden in the midfield.
If it's going to be one, then it will be Foden from wide. But I think if it's my team and I'm playing Foden and Mount as 10s, it is a toss-up for who plays off the right, and that's where you might look at someone like Saka as a wild card, and he's done so well for Arsenal off the right, cutting in and delivering balls. For someone like Harry Kane to get on the end of it. It depends which way Southgate wants to go. If he wants his wide players to get to the byline, and if he wants to play them as wingers, it'll be very different if he wants to play them as forwards. You look at Sterling playing off the left, coming inside. Does he want someone on the other side to play off the right and come inside? They're little things you've got to look at. I think when you look at the strikers, what we've named, Ings, Watkins, Calvert-Lewin, none of them are going to play wide of Harry Kane, so probably none of them are going to start. Watkins probably could at a push play wide, but it's not really his position. No. He is very, I know he was when he first went to Brentford, played off the right, but he's very much central player now. We're looking at the likes of Sancho, Rashford, Sterling, Saka, Foden, maybe Grealish at some point. They're going to be the wide players. Whether you're looking for someone who's got express pace, are going to get down the side, or whether you're looking for someone who's more going to just cut in onto their stronger foot, which is we see that inverted wingers even more and more so. allowing the fullbacks to get on. And I think when you look at Shaw and Walker, or if it's going to be Trippier, that's that them wingers coming in side, allowing the space on the outside for the fullbacks to get on. I think that's probably where we're looking.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, to be honest. I think with that front three, because there are so many fantastic midfielders in this England squad, I think you've got to look at the players that are most likely to score a goal and just be so single-minded. Obviously, Kane, absolutely.
That's one thing. I know we talked about Saka and his goal scoring, but also Phil Foden.
Yeah.
Outstanding the last few games I've watched him.
Prolific as well in the Premier League in terms of goal scoring.
But I think he's missed a lot of good chances. I think he had 2 one-on-ones against PSG. I think in the weekend, not the weekend, but he's had a lot of chances where he get in front of goal. I think in the first leg against PSG, he had a couple of opportunities. There was one that was a stab finish and it went straight at Navas. I just question: would you back him in front of goal?
Right. Okay.
He gets in the team.
Yeah.
He gets in everyone's team.
Yeah,
I think, no doubt. But in front of goal, maybe there's a couple of question marks there.
Yep. I think that's fair enough. And we've had a fairly decent debate about this. Lots to think about. I think it'll be very interesting with the obviously abundance of options that Southgate has as to who he eventually goes with, especially at the top end of the pitch, attacking midfield areas and that front line. I'm expecting big things from England this year, but I'll probably be let down at some point. Right, let's move on to the scout then. And let's scroll down and find it. So last week, obviously I said Bruno. Now Man United against Liverpool didn't go ahead due to the fan protests, so can't really comment on that apart from just saying fair play to Man United. Obviously don't want to see the fans breaking onto the pitch, but it's nice that they're voicing their opinions. Been a lot of scrutiny on the Glazers the last few days. I think in America one of the reporters sort of tracked him down and asked him a lot of questions, and he didn't batter an eyelid. So disappointing, but it's nice that Man United fans are properly voicing that opinion. Now, Matt, you said Pereira for West Brom didn't really contribute to anything in that game, but obviously West Brom did manage to hold Wolves to a 1-0 draw at the Hawthorns, and that will do nothing for their survival hopes. But not a bad result at home to a decent Wolves side. Lewis, you said Iheanacho. Leicester would be disappointed not to win that game, but Iheanacho did get an assist, so I think it's fair to say in a pretty dismal week for the scout. Lewis, you probably had the best shot there.
Yeah, but you forgot to mention he gave away a penalty in that game.
Did he?
So
he did.
I didn't watch that. Okay.
His hands were where they shouldn't be. But
right. Okay.
that's what.
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, but no. Okay, he had one slightly off week, but you can't keep it out every week, can you? So.
No. That's yeah, I was watching that. I saw the Evans goal. Sorry. I didn't see the penalty.
It was a great cross.
Yeah.
Just like a Saka kind of cross, one of them cutting in. That's what we were just talking about a minute ago.
Right,
It was good.
It's a shame Saka can't finish. Right. Last week then we'll go on to it, and for me, there's not too many stand-up performances. But Anwar El Ghazi for Aston Villa. Now, he's someone who I like a lot, and he's been in my fantasy Premier League team for a lot of the year. I think he's overlooked a lot. He's massively underrated. Popped up with an important goal for Aston Villa to clinch that win. I think it was 2-1 away at Everton.
Hell of a goal.
Yeah, but great goal as well. So for me, he's my pick from last week. Matt, who have you gone with?
I picked this player a couple of weeks ago, and they're away at Sheffield United, and they lost 1-0. It's Danny Welbeck, because he scored an unbelievable goal. The goal at the weekend, watching out the sky, the turn on and finish was fantastic.
Superb,
and I'm not going to say he's underrated. I think he's probably found a club where he'll play all the time.
Yeah.
And can be a real asset. And I'm just really glad to see him doing well.
Yeah.
He obviously was at Arsenal for a while and was dogged by injuries. But he technically he's not the greatest player, but he has moments of absolute brilliance.
Yeah.
He's, incredible.
He does,
He scored a goal for England against Sweden. The back heel.
Yeah.
So he has got that bit of quality. He offers a lot. He's quite big physically. He's not bad in the air. He's quick. He runs in behind. He's a great asset for Brighton. But it was just a fantastic goal.
He's been around a long time, to be fair. He's just been very unfortunate with
I just
so
looked
many
up
injuries.
quickly. He never let down England. He scored 16 goals and 40 caps.
Yeah.
If he didn't have all them injuries, I think he'd still be around the squad, even with all the quality.
No, 100%.
He's a goal scorer.
Is he a last minute Southgate?
Well,
Oh no,
Cool.
no.
scores 10 in the last
I can't
five
see
games,
that.
maybe.
But to be honest, even when he was at Arsenal, he wasn't too bad. I can remember him getting a hat-trick against Galatasaray in the Champions League. Obviously, there's not too many of them about. So yeah, it's nice to see Danny Welbeck doing well, as you said. To be honest, Lewis, who have you gone with?
I went with Saïd Benrahma from West Ham.
He was excellent, wasn't
Yeah, I don't know if you watched the game,
he?
but
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah, brilliant.
obviously we watched a lot of Brentford last season, and he played like he did for Brentford. Really, he didn't score. He didn't score on Monday, but it was probably the best game he's had in a West Ham shirt. It's about time, really. They only signed him on loan last summer, then they made the deal permanent in January. And yeah, he was quality. He set up this assist for Antonio's second goal, which was a great header.
Yep.
I think it was a header, or was it a back post finish? Anyway, one of them was a header, wasn't it?
It was head of the first one. Yeah.
And it was the best I've seen him all season. So I'm going to go with him.
The front four West Ham were extremely impressive.
That first half, the build-up play was absolutely super.
Yeah, when they went 1-0 down, I thought, oh, hang on, they're having a bit of a wobble here, and they haven't had some good results of late. But they were quickly level, and say, Lewis is right. Benrahma was outstanding. I think there's another one where he cut in and whipped a ball, and no one got on the end of it. Yeah. And it just went wide. He possesses real quality. Yeah.
I mean, you look at. I was looking at thinking, well, Burnley West Ham is not going to be a great game. But to be honest, Benrahma that day, he was a real joy to watch. It's not many times I can say that about players, one-off performances, but technically you can see what he's going to do every time he gets the ball, and he pulls it off probably 9 times out of 10. And that day was really sort of, well, it was like you said, it was how he played at Brentford last year. Right, we're looking at the upcoming week. I've gone with Bukayo Saka. Now Arsenal home to West Brom. Last time out they put 4 past them at the Hawthorns, so I'm hoping, I've said expecting it, but I'm hoping for a comfortable win, because you never know what Arsenal are going to turn up, especially if Gabriel does start. I think it's a real chance for Saka to put in an impressive performance ahead of that Euro squad selection we just talked about, and really put his name back out there for maybe a starting spot. Obviously a bit of a long shot with the amount of attacking quality we've got, but you never know if he works on that finishing and pops up with a few more goals, a few more assists, and overall good performances, he could just find his way into that first team. Matt, who have you gone with?
I've gone with Jamie Vardy. Leicester are the first game of the weekend, Friday night, home to Newcastle. And looking at their last 4 fixtures after Friday night against Newcastle, they've got Man United, Chelsea, and Spurs to finish up. So some really tough games, and I think this is a game that is a must-win. I think if they do win it, they're pretty close to cementing their Champions League space. Definitely. Not been in the goals of late, Vardy, and we spoke before about Iheanacho and him stepping up to the plate, but I wouldn't be surprised if Vardy comes to the party as such on Friday night. I think if they can get 3 points, which they'll be massive favourites to do against Newcastle.
Yeah, for sure.
It leaves them in a really strong position, albeit with some tough games to go. But I think they've got Chelsea at home and Man United away, and then Spurs at home to finish up. So they probably need 3 points against Newcastle, and then to take some points off the others, and that will cement their Champions League.
I mean, Newcastle, I think they're pretty much safe now, aren't they? Just maybe a couple of wins will do. And we watched them on Sunday against Arsenal. They were very poor.
I think they're 9 points clear.
Yeah, they should be alright.
I think Fulham aren't going to pick up 9 points. So I think
not for me. No.
Mathematically they're not safe, but I think we can say that they're pretty safe now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Lou, who have you gone with?
Well, I think I could have gone with this player for last week actually, because he was so good, but I had to go Benrahma because he was even better.
He was class, yeah.
So mine's Matt Ryan, who I think will again start on Sunday. And to be honest, he's done more than enough really to earn himself a permanent move to Arsenal as the number 2. I think he should even be given the chance to be number 1 for the rest of the season. There's some rumours going around about Leno wanting to leave. That's good, because I think it's time he does leave, because he's made too many high-profile mistakes, and Ryan deserves a chance. He was faultless against Newcastle. A couple of times he was out of the box for some reason when Newcastle cleared it, and you're like, what are you doing? But he was faultless, and that's all you can say, because I was so much more comfortable seeing him with dealing with crosses and things like that. And I think this Sunday he'll just keep showing how good he is against a team, West Brom. You need to score some goals, but come on, they're not going to. I mean, even against our defence, I don't think
with any goalkeeper,
trouble us.
all you really ask for is is the fact that they look comfortable, and you feel confident in them, and that's the main thing. And to be honest, like you said, Matt Ryan is and has been every time he's stepped in absolutely.
He's
flawless.
not the tallest, but nor was Shay Given, and Shay Given was class. Matt Ryan won't, I don't think, ever be Arsenal's number one full time, but I definitely have him as number 2 for next season.
Yeah. Would you start him tonight?
Well, we are obviously recording this before Thursday's, Europa League match. I would start him tonight, but he won't start tonight. He will start later.
Okay.
He'll start later.
Okay, fair enough. Excellent, good stuff, guys. We'll touch on that next week again and see what happens. Obviously, we've picked 2 Arsenal players for the upcoming week, so I think that never really goes
West
well.
West Brom win is on the agenda.
Yeah, Diagne hat-trick, I think.
Yeah,
right.
Saka not playing.
Yeah, right. Finally, we'll move on then to the last bit of the episode, which is the Matt versus again. Now, last week was a very tight contest, and Matt only came out 5-4 on the deciding question, and that was only because it was to do with goalkeepers. Again, 10 questions this week, all based around England in the Euros. So, as ever, you've both got your unique buzzer noises. Matt, can you play yours, please?
Okay, hang on. Where's it gone?
Obviously, that's Martin Tyler's famous commentary because Chelsea did reach the Champions League final last night. Congratulations to them.
Thanks for
Lewis.
I don't want to congratulate them, but there we go. Mine is.
Yeah, that's Stan Collymore there having a bit of a goalgasm over the Ibrahimovic overhead kick against England. Right, we'll get in straight into question 1 then. Fingers on buzzers. You ready?
Yeah.
Who is the overall England European Championships top goal scorer? It's Lewis.
I don't know, but we took so long to answer. I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Gary Lineker.
Incorrect. No, Matt. You don't have to buzz in for this.
I'll be honest. If I had to have a guess at first, I would have gone with Gary Lineker.
Okay. Yep.
I'm going to go with Wayne Rooney.
Incorrect. No, it's with 7 goals. Alan Shearer.
Oh,
even my second option.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, this one's slightly difficult one. This one. What club has been represented the most by English players at the European Championships? Go on, Matt. In early there. Oh, he's played it again. He loves it so much.
Liverpool.
It is Liverpool. Have you heard that
Where
one?
got that from?
You're very quick with that.
I think there's a stat where
I think you wrote the questions.
I think there's a stat that I heard recently that it's X amount of years since a Liverpool player hasn't been in an England squad or something to those effects. So, that was my thinking. I didn't know the
33 players from Liverpool. It's quite a lot.
They're not English, are they? They're Scouse.
Yeah, they don't see themselves as that.
Right, Matt, 1-0 to you, mate. Question 3, and this relates to question 2 quite nicely. How many players have represented England at the European Championships? Now, this is obviously very difficult, so within 10 is absolutely fine. Either side. Yeah, difficult.
Blimey.
I think guesses are needed here.
$260.
Incorrect. No.
288.
No. Much less.
Oh.
Much less.
Oh.
173.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, none of us get a
I
point
was
there.
closest, wasn't I?
No one gets a point there.
No,
closest.
nobody with a point for that. If you were within 10, obviously, difficult question that, to be honest, I appreciate it. I think I was scraping the barrel for a question there.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's only number 3.
Yeah,
Right at the bottom of that barrel, I think.
Right. Question 4. The last game England played in the Euros was the 2-1 defeat at the hands of Iceland in July 2016. Who scored the only goal for England that day? That's Matt.
I thought.
Oh, it's such a good question, but I don't know the answer.
Jamie Vardy.
No, incorrect. No, Lewis.
Harry Kane.
No, it was a 4th-minute penalty from Wayne Rooney.
Oh, I was going to say.
Oh, I didn't know he was still about. Of course he was.
Still only 1-0 after 4. Maybe it's a difficult one for me today. Right.
Some terrible England knowledge.
Yeah. Question 5. In 2012, England beat Sweden 3-2 in the final match of Group D. Can you name any of the 2 English goal scorers that night? It's Matt.
We talked about one.
Yeah, we
Pressed
did.
it.
Yeah,
I
I was
pressed
gutted.
it and it
Danny
didn't work.
Welbeck
Yeah,
and Theo Walcott scored,
yeah.
and so did Andy Carroll.
Yeah.
That's all you needed there.
I went to press the button and I pressed above it. So
Oh, that's
missed
a shame.
it.
That's a shame. Right, it is a small button. I'll try and work on a bigger one for you guys next week. Right.
Probably on number 6.
2-0 after 5 questions.
Oh dear, here we go.
Okay, question 6. Darius Vassell missed the penultimate penalty before England were knocked out of Euro 2004, obviously via a penalty shootout against Portugal. But what was significant about the save from the Portugal goalkeeper? Matt got in there first.
He wasn't wearing any gloves.
Yeah, correct. He wasn't wearing any gloves. That was mental. I was watching it the other day. I was like, what is he doing?
I think he took his gloves off to take a penalty, did he not?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And
So,
then,
so he saved the penalty from Vassell with the gloves off and kept him off. Scored a penalty to win it.
Crazy.
Mental. So that's 3-0.
Did you know that, Lou?
Nope.
No.
Crazy.
It is
I just
mental.
remember,
I remember
him,
it now.
I remember him taking off his gloves
Yeah.
and scoring.
Yeah.
So I just assumed.
Adrian did that once.
Did he?
Adrian for
that's
West
the-
Ham.
the longest penalty shot ever, wasn't it, against Everton?
Well,
Yeah, he
saved the
saved
penalty
one.
with
And
no-
then he was
Joel
taking the
Robles. He saved Robles, and then
Yeah,
and
he was
then
taking the
scored.
winning pen, so he just threw his gloves off and ran up and scored.
No, but
Imagine if he missed.
But did he save a pen with the gloves off?
No, no.
Because that's like I literally have never heard of that before. Someone's like out of
Are
option
you
chooses
sure?
to
He
save
definitely
gloves
took
off.
his gloves. Yeah,
I
definitely.
watched it the other day. It was mental. Yeah, terrible penalty as well. Right, so 6 questions down and it's 3-0 to Matt. Obviously,
It's a long way back.
Yeah, but there's still, we've got the who am I at the end, and that's, could be 4 points as well.
Need to brush up my English knowledge.
Yeah, right, question 7. England failed to qualify for Euro 2008 after a 3-2 loss at Wembley to Croatia. Scott Carson fumbled a long-range effort, gifting which Croatian player a goal?
Is it Nico Cranchar?
It is.
Harry Redknapp's favourite.
Yeah, it was.
He went early.
I
Yeah,
did,
he did.
but I had to. I had
you
to
did,
go for it.
No, good stuff. That's 3-1. He's back in the game very
Wally
much.
with the brolly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was terrible goalkeeping that night.
It was only 4, weren't you?
No, I watched the highlights the other day. Right.
It doesn't get any better, does it?
No, it doesn't. No. Right, question 8. England came from behind to beat Wales 2-1 in Euro 2016. Who scored the winning goal in the 91st minute? That was Matt.
Daniel Sturridge.
Yeah, obviously no camera this week.
Shame
but
the
he's doing
camera's not working.
The famous Sturridge celebration. That would have been nice to get. But Sturridge.
And Vardy
4
got the
4-1.
equaliser, did he not?
I think so. Yeah, I was watching that at school in a maths class. Interesting fact there. Right, 4-1 to Matt after 8 questions. And again,
need this one.
yeah, you do, but there's still time at the end for you to inconvenience me and make me find a
Tiebreaker.
a tiebreaker, yeah.
I don't think so.
Question 9. England were knocked out in the semi-finals of Euro 96 at the hands of Germany. Which England player missed the penultimate penalty of the shootout? And that's Lewis in quickly there.
An ultimate penalty.
Yeah. So as in missed the penalty, next bloke, Germany scored.
Okay. Gareth Southgate.
It was Gareth Southgate, yeah.
I knew it was, but then Matt's looking at me and he's
Yeah,
doubting
yeah,
me,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I knew it was Southgate.
No, it was, yeah. Right, 4-2. So you've got this last question. Obviously, Lewis.
Exactly the same as last week, by the way.
It is
4-2 after 9.
Exactly the same as the who am I. Obviously, the usual point system. I don't have to run it through with anyone, do I?
So, can I just confirm, if I buzz in
Mm-hmm.
after the first one and I get it wrong,
Yep.
will you then continue with the rest of the questions?
Yep.
But I can't answer now.
Correct.
Okay, it'll be solely onto Lewis.
You can only answer,
Once.
but if Lewis buzzes in and gets it wrong, it's open to both of you again.
Oh, he can. So I can answer more than once.
Yep.
So I might as well. So what you're saying is I might as well have a guess after the first one.
No, I'm not saying that because you have to wait for Lewis to buzz in and get one wrong before we can then answer again.
Oh, if we both answer,
Yes.
then it goes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Okay. So who am I? I have represented England in 3 World Cups and 2 European Championships. It's risky. I can see he wants to. Okay.
Oh,
No. Oh, he's gone for it. Never get tired of hearing Stan Collymore.
That's a lot of fucking tournaments.
It is a lot. Yeah. That's
David Seaman.
No, not David Seaman. So Lewis, you've frozen out until Matt gets one wrong.
So I could let it go down to 1 now.
You could, but yeah, but come on,
You
back
could,
again.
but that's a bit scummy, isn't it? Right. Clue number 2. I am a goalkeeper.
Oh, see, I was close.
You are close.
What's the first question? Played or I've been?
Represented England in 3 World Cups, 2 European Championships.
So I can't buzz in now,
You can't. No.
even though I know it is.
Matt's buzzed in.
David James?
Incorrect. Lewis, if you want to guess, you're more than welcome to have
Oh,
one.
but then he has to go again, doesn't he?
Insane goal.
I'm gonna go Peter Shilton.
It's Peter Shilton! Right, so that's what's that? That's on the second one. So that's 3 points.
That is a win for me.
So Lewis is taking it 5-4. Matt,
I'm not having that. That's terrible.
what are you not having?
We both had a go and we neither of us got it right.
Yeah, I know, but
So there we are. Then
no,
that's the end of it.
we've opened it up, and Lewis is taking it 5-4.
I'm not having that.
He's gutted. I can. It's a shame we don't have the camera on because
It's a shame we changed the rules this week.
okay. Yeah, well, it's all right.
Just
It's all
make
right.
them clearer.
Yeah, okay. I'll make them clearer from now on. But I think
I'm not coming on next week.
no, that's fine. That's fine. We won't have an episode. We can't edit it. Right. Okay. Lewis, well done, mate. You're the first person to beat Matt. Obviously, we've only had one other guest on, but that was a bit of an obliteration, wasn't it? And that just about wraps up today's episode. It's obviously been great to have a debate over who will go to the Euros for England. And Matt, disappointing, but as ever, it's been a pleasure, mate.
Yeah, it's nice. My last episode, so I wish you all the best going forward.
Thanks for coming on, Lewis.
I'll be on for Lewis versus next week.
the new king, right, Lewis? Thank you very much for coming on again, mate.
Cheers. Yeah, it was good. It's,
Just quickly, I wanted to touch on after the Instagram poll I put out last week, and then I followed it up by a post yesterday. Watford have won the vote for the first sort of 20-minute rebuild episode, so I'll hopefully get that done at some point within the next week or two, depending on how busy I am. Anyway, thank you very much, guys, for listening. Make sure to get in contact with us on social media if you disagree with any of our selections for the England squad, obviously.
And the questions.
And the questions, yeah, you can DM us or email us or reply to anything, whatever you want to do. So thank you very much, and keep talking football.